Welcome back to another episode of the Success Playbook by Expertrons and Shine. Today we have two incredible entrepreneurs with us, Anand and Tapasi, the visionaries behind Mentza, a platform revolutionizing how we learn, grow, and succeed in our careers. Anand has been instrumental in shaping Mentza's mission, and Tapsi, with her expertise in design, behavioral science, and architecture, has played a key role in building its growth strategy. Folks, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Doing great,
Hey,
Jatin. Hi.
hey,
Wonderful.
Jatin, thank you for having us here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Anand and Tapsi, for taking your time. And it's really great to have you on the show. Let's start from the beginning. Menza is all about enabling career success through conversation. What inspired both of you to build this platform?
Tapsi, you want to go first?
Sure. So I think there are a few things that came into play. Uh, I don't know, some of you might know, might not know, but Anand and the rest of the team, we've known each other for a really long time, over a decade. And the idea was to also work together and build something that created value. So that was our starting point. And during the course, we also realized that there was a gap in the edtech space, right? Where in the past decade, edtech has been all about taking, bookish knowledge and converting it into a digital platform, but not necessarily moving the needle on innovation. And that's where we saw the gap. We said, how do we, what are the things that students are not learning and that are crucial to career success? And that's where Menza came from, where we realized it was the ability to communicate, the confidence, the soft skills that really kind of move the needle when it comes to career success. And that's, I guess, the germinating thought from Menza.
Amazing. And Anand, what's your side of the thoughts? How did all of this come together? Yeah.
I think we worked a lot with edtech companies in our earlier of the doing behavioral sciences. We used to run a company. Most of the founders here have been partner in that journey as well. With Final Mile, where we were trying to see how behavioral science can be brought into various applications, and in that we had the opportunity to work with a bunch of edtech companies. And what we learned is that the model that edtech companies, most edtech is essentially translating what used to be a classroom onto an online platform. And our starting point is that learning can happen much better in conversations. The reason why engagement in many of the edtech companies are low is because or any of the edtech platforms, right? I mean, people start a lot of courses with great intent. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the course. There's nothing wrong with the intention that people have, but then they drop off simply because it's not engaging enough. And we know that stories and conversations are a great way. It's a much more natural way for us to learn, and that's how we learn as kids, right? When we grow up, that's how we learn. We learn through stories, and somehow we lose that when it comes to education. Why? When we have a platform, when we can build a platform which can enable storytelling as a means of learning, why wouldn't we want to do that, right? So that was the starting point, saying, okay, let's see how we can build one where a lot of learning. And the other point that we said right from the beginning is that the idea of learning by listening is far inferior to the idea of learning by speaking, right? In conversations where you're participating versus in a session where you're just listening, the level of engagement is very, very different, and that shows in the way you learn as well. So if you put all of these together, and that's why I think our background in behavioral sciences help us in building a platform which takes into account, and designing a platform that takes into account all these aspects. And so we are able to incorporate a lot of these principles in the way it is designed. For example, it's audio, right, and not video, right? And it's very tempting to say, why don't we do video? Because it's so easy to build. But we said, no, we want people to be comfortable in any state that they are in. You
Right.
don't need to have a lovely looking background. You don't need to prepare yourself to be in a video, right? So audio helps a lot. Second, we said we need short conversations, not long conversation. And that's the need of the new generation, right? They need bite-sized stuff to happen. So many aspects that has gone in the design, and nobody requires any permission to speak. You can just come in, and you don't need an invitation. You can just come and speak in any of the session. And every coach on Menza encourages people to come and speak. Not to say that, okay, you come and listen. No, come and speak, because we are absolutely clear that the conversations are the ones that will help them learn better.
Amazing, amazing. No, nicely put, Anand. I think the point you spoke about learning by doing is kind of the has actually been a really important premise within the education technology domain. I remember still in my previous venture where we were gamifying learning, and we had to kind of make sure that the students are participating in a learning module, and while they are participating in a game, it kind of reinforces a lot to their learning. And the second aspect, which is a very beautiful aspect, is the collaboration aspect, where you are actually learning from your peers. You have a lot of people on the Mentza app talking to each other. So I think that's amazing. I think, and for our listeners, I'll just maybe take two steps backward, and first start with Anand, a little bit of your background on your previous venture, how that experience has been and how that led to this, and then maybe we'll understand from Tapsi a little bit more on how Mentza works exactly. So maybe Anand, if you can start with a little bit of your previous venture experience and how that led to this.
Yeah, previous venture was is called Final Mile, and what we did there was to bring in a very new science at that point in time. We were pioneers in that globally. We were trying to build a practice, a consulting practice, which uh, used behavioral science principles to understand human behavior, to predict human behavior, and to design solutions which will help influence that behavior. That was the purpose of Final Mile. We did work in a wide variety of areas, in whether it is in sanitation in India, HIV in Africa, or financial services and healthcare in the US.
Wow.
Quite a few sectors that we worked in trying to influence human behavior, and that gave us a very good understanding of how people take decisions. And in that process, we also got to work with quite a few edtech companies, because we were working with one of the accelerators, who was in turn working with a number of edtech companies. And so we got to understand how young people take decisions as far as learning is concerned, how they learn, right? What is the mechanism for which makes them engaged in their learning process. And that learning is what we said, okay, can we now make that into a product which can create impact at scale. So nobody else was doing it, and we said, can we bring all those principles? And since we were a design firm in Final Mile, we said, can we design a product which is aligned to all the principles that we've learned from there? And that's what has culminated in Menza in the way it is. The addition of artificial intelligence as a significant part of it has again come from understanding how young people were engaging with the platform, their need to feel comfortable in a one-on-one situation. So it has seen quite a bit of evolution, right? So the one thing that has remained constant is the fact that learning happens through conversations where people participate by speaking. That has remained the same, but that happens in the context of peers, it happens in the context of coaches, and it also now happens in the context of artificial intelligence. So that is how we've moved over the last couple of years.
Amazing. No, you've touched upon really important things on how your journey previously has kind of impacted how Menza has shaped up, and we also understand the importance of team there, and how you kind of took forward your team, and now you have your co-founders also in this venture. So Tapsi, with your background in design, in behavioral science, in all of this, how that has kind of influenced Menza, and also would love for our listeners to understand how does Menza exactly work. And maybe a bit more on the use case of the app. So yeah, if you can
Yeah,
cover that.
absolutely. So I did start off as a behavioral designer, though I do think a lot of design typically is about understanding human behavior. So by education, I'm an architect, and I chanced upon Final Mile. Right, this was in its early days, and we did a interior project. It was their office, which is when I think And like Anand said, right, Final Mile was not just a behavior science consulting; it was a design firm as well, right? Because the idea with behavior science is understanding human behavior. And like I said, most designers, that's what your endeavor is, right? You want to understand what people are doing, why they're doing it, how do they respond to, you know, um, stimuli in the environment. And so is the case with architecture, right? It's you create spaces for people to interact in, to live in, right? And it moderates how you feel, how you behave, what you do, right? Like from the moment you wake up in the morning, right, to putting your head down, every single decision is sort of moderated by design interventions all over the place, right? So that was the starting point. And of course, Final Mile opened the world of understanding, right? Actually bringing terminology to a lot of, what is going on with human beings. Why do we do the strange things we do? Buy gym memberships and never use it. Like Anand said, right? Decide to, join a course on Coursera, but never finish it. So those were the things that we kind of, I got, exposed to with Final Mile. And then it was a whole world that opened up, right? And now it was all about, okay, how do we take these learnings that we have and put it into products, right? Which can create impact. And that's what Mentza was. So Anand told you the story about, how we got to something like a Mentza, but then how did we develop it, right? It's not like on the first day we have Mentza the way it is today. I think in the past few years, it's gone through a lot of iteration, right? Initially, it started. So I think there were certain tenets that were always core. So, like Anand said, right, it was about how do we build learning in, right?
Right.
How do we build it through actions, right? Which meant that you had to speak, right? It was never about passive consumption. So that was always true to Mentza, right? We also at the time came in with this idea of audio, right? We said, okay, let's, everybody was like, how can you not have video in learning? And we said, no, you can, right? It tunes yourself in. So some of those things have never changed. What did change was we started honing in, what was the end user's need, right? And we kept honing it in. That's when we got to this point of how do we help people with their careers at either inflection points, right? When you're changing, your field, or when you're looking to get into a new position, or when you're looking to start off your career, right? So we said, what is it that people need at the time, right? People get into interviews, right? People need to speak to people. People need to network. People need to broaden their horizons. And we said, how do you solve for that, right? So I think one of the things that my background in design is looking at your member or your user or your customer and saying, what is it that they need, right? And keeping that front and center. And I think that's true for, if you look at most successful businesses, right, they will always go back to who are you creating this for, right? So yeah, I think that's what I have brought to the table, where we're constantly looking at what do they need, how do we constantly iterate. So at any given point, if someone were to come and say, what's going on in Mentza, within a few months, you see a lot of change. So in that sense, we're a small team, but we're constantly iterating and developing the product and listening to our end users. So yeah.
Amazing.
I just want to add one point, Jatin. This is like, if you look at my own self, right? When I joined engineering college, one of the top engineering colleges in Kerala, the College of Engineering Trivandrum. Interestingly, I had studied in an English medium school right through, right? But um, you would never speak to each other amongst peers in English. So you would speak in English in class, but not to peers, because it's considered like, not the cool thing to do at that time. Right? When I joined my engineering college, I I was very good in English when it came to writing, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. Now, it's not because I didn't know the language, right? But it was because that you have not done that. And I had the same experience when I finished engineering and went to Ghaziabad in a factory to speak in Hindi. I had the same problem. I knew Hindi. I had passed my exams in Hindi, but conversation is a very different. The confidence that people build, especially when we go to tier 2 towns, tier 3 towns, it's not the lack of skills. I think there is a huge difference because we often, and that's one of the things that behavioral science taught us, we have this behavior of attribute substitution. Right? When I don't know exactly how to evaluate you,
Hmm.
I evaluate you on the things that are easy for me to understand. So
Hmm.
we often substitute English for competency,
Hmm.
right? Saying, oh, somebody is speaking very, very well, then they must be good, right?
That
Now,
is
where
true.
is this good English coming from? It's about being able to have the opportunity to speak, to engage with people of that kind, right?
Right.
With mentors, right? When you don't have exposure to big companies,
Hmm.
you don't have exposure to corporate life.
Hmm.
Those are the things that happen with the mentors on Mensa. There are a lot of industry leaders who come in. People get to speak to them. They understand perspective. So there is knowledge, right? There's information that translates to knowledge. At some point, knowledge becomes perspective, and for that you need conversations. And I think that is the big difference that some of these conversations bring, especially when we look at industry leaders and how they come into the picture. So I think there is also at a personal level, I understand exactly how the kind of challenges that people from a tier 2 town come in, not because they don't have the skills, because they have all the skills, but perhaps they don't have the same level of articulation, the confidence that is required to have a conversation. And I think Mensa bridges that gap significantly.
Wow. No, this really makes sense. And yeah, as Tapsi you said, putting your user at the center of it, and as Anand, I still remember from my journey in my engineering, and how all of us had to have certain seniors, had to have certain mentors to kind of practice our interviews. Like we had
Yeah,
to, and some of whom who were lucky enough to kind of build those relations with our seniors to kind of practice interviews, or do certain mocks, would kind of do better than others who would have not fostered
absolutely.
those relations. And really well put about how kind of communicating better would just would just give the false illusion of that they know things better. So we have had this experience of, say, in my more than a decade of a journey as an entrepreneur, I've hired developers who have had good communication, and I've like you always have that false illusion because communication achhi hai, so they'll be a good developer. So so it's
Right.
always the case. Like if you have, if you're better at articulating things, if you're better at communicating, you seem to be more knowledgeable than others. And if you're not able to kind of put things together, if you're not able to communicate properly, that kind of puts you in the back seat. So that's surely something very critical. And even at our journey at Expertrons, with all the upskilling piece, where we had trained so many people within BFSI, we trained people across data science. We have seen that as a really big challenge, where people with communication would is a really important, or a piece at the center of a lot of these things. So Menza, as this audio revolution, I feel is a really interesting tool to kind of help early career seekers to kind of learn and do better. So maybe here I'll take a minute, like Tapsi, you can walk us through a little bit of how the Menza app works, how it is for the user. So maybe you can speak a bit on it, Tapsi.
Yeah, absolutely. So the app is fairly straightforward for the user. It's available across all platforms. It's available on Android, on the Apple Store, the Play Store. All you have to do is go download the app. We do it in a few different ways. So just sign in with your email. You're on. So you start off with, and because AI is also now at the center, and you earlier when you were talking, you said if you were lucky enough to have mentors and all, so we kind of take that luck situation out of it, right? Like everybody gets with AI, everybody is able to get access to a mentor, right? Or to somebody you can do mock interviews with. So the way this starts off is, once you've downloaded Menza and you have it on your device, we do a really short onboarding, and it's all AI driven. That's when you first get to meet Many, who is the Menza AI. And through a few short questions, we kind of get a sense of what the person is looking for, right? Is it about starting their own business? Is it about negotiation skills, or is it about doing interviews, right? So we get a sense of that and we customize a homepage
Right.
for them. Now, what exactly happens on this homepage? Again, we have tools. So AI-led tools which help you with mock interviews, which help you with coaching. We have live mentors on the platform where you can get into a live conversation with, and they would help you with communication skills, with storytelling, with this idea of broadening your perspectives, what's happening in the real world, right? We also have something called a Mentza Masterclass, which happens every Saturday. So you get to speak to industry leaders for an hour. So these are live sessions. So basically we have AI, we have live, and then we have recorded content of all of the sessions that we've had on Mentza. And people get recommended access, which means that if we think that Jatin needs wants information on data science, right? So then we will curate the coaching and the AI sessions and the mock interviews based on that.
Wow.
Right? So that's pretty much it. That does not mean that Jatin will not get access to all of our content. You do, but because we have a background in behavior science, it's always about while people like the illusion of choice, too much of it can be paralyzing. So we want to recommend stuff that is valuable, that will actually help them. So that's where we start off with. And each of these AI sessions have reports which help you understand where you stand, how much you need to work on. We give recommendations saying that, okay, Jatin, you need to work on X, Y, and Z, and this is what your next step should be on Mentza. So there's a fair bit of hand-holding. And the good thing is that this is available round the clock AI sessions. So whenever you have the time, because we do understand, like Anand was saying earlier, right? It's a fast-paced world. Students are busy. So they need to find time that works for them, as opposed to saying, "Aaj 5 baje hi class hogi, to tabhi aana padega." So that's pretty much the platform. You will see a small demo of it as well, which will give you a sense of how this actually looks and works. But that, I don't know, Anand, am I missing something out?
No, so essentially there is AI and there are coaches. And
Right.
then, of course, you can have peer conversations. That's a broad themes that we have.
Amazing.
AI helps you in terms of, mock interviews, if you want coaching specifically on certain topics, if you want yourself assessed on, say, some of your soft skills, for example.
Right.
Those are the sessions that are with the AI. And the coaches hold sessions which are all about, career success.
Wow.
It could be in terms of interviews and job interview, preparing people for interviews. It could be in terms of, emotional intelligence. It could be in terms of, business communication, skills that are essential as far as career success is concerned.
Right.
Those are happening live as well. So you can get into a conversation with other people,
Right.
Which is where your chances of learning are the highest. So
Wow.
so that's the combination that
I
Mentza provides. If you miss something, you can always go back and listen to a recording.
Amazing. No, I think this is really beautifully put. I think the two most important aspect of learning, where one is collaboration, learning from the community, or finding the community here to speak to, and actually say having a mentor in the pocket. That's the first important aspect which is covered here, and the second aspect is personalization, where we can clearly see that it is like the AI is basically helping you personalize and is helping you prepare very specific to your needs. So that's really interesting to know. And Anand, maybe this question is for you about kind of incorporating AI, and of course there's a lot of buzz around AI, use cases of AI, and an actual impact of AI, because you understand in the startup world it was at one point it was all about just adding .ai in front of your startup's name, and you would kind of increase the overall value of what you are kind of building, but the ground reality and how it is impacting, and AI really has I feel that in some of the fields it really has deeper impact. It really has the ability to kind of penetrate, can create real impact, and I really see that education is one of them, where you always lack quality mentors, quality teachers. You don't have everyone, like all of these available for every student, because there's always this disparity of so many number of students or career seekers versus so little number of mentors or people who are kind of providing that access. And yeah, I mean happy to understand the incorporation of AI within Mentza and how that kind of came together. How did the trials kind of go through? How did you realize that this will actually create the last mile impact on career seekers than just being a feature on the app? So happy to understand more on that journey, Anand.
Yeah, you're very right, Jatin. It's um, there's so much buzz around AI, then sometimes you wonder, what is real, what isn't. Now, we didn't incorporate AI because it was a buzzword. We incorporated because, as Tapsi was saying, we were looking at every point in time, what is it that the users on the platform really need, right? We're talking about a bunch of youngsters who are coming to learn something, who wants. So when we started off, we would hear a lot of people coming in and say, I really want to speak in some of these sessions, but I don't feel confident to do that. So we said, okay, now we will create a bunch of sessions again by coaches to help them improve some of those skills. But even then, we realized that only a small proportion of our users were actually coming in and speaking, because the idea of speaking in front of four other people, or maybe more, right? So four people, five, seven, up to seven people are speaking, and there might be like 50 listeners who are listening to you. It's very scary for a lot of people, right? So we said, where is it that they can do it in without feeling judged, right? Though our platform in general is a very supportive audience, right? Everybody supports everybody else because they are all in it together. But even then, if people are feeling a little, scared about it, then what is it that we can do, right? And I think AI, beyond the hype, has very, and this is a classic case where we can really understand that this has got very clear application in something which is genuinely in need. This is not a need that we are imagining, right? It actually exists. So if you see the way in which people have taken to these AI interviews and sessions, it tells us a lot about how much this was in need. And I think there is we live in a country which has got very different levels of access for people to various things that is, as you mentioned, Jatin.
Right.
There are some people who have access to the best of education, some people who don't have access, and I think there is a responsibility that many of these many of us have, in terms of making sure that some of these are available not just to the people who are already predisposed to learning. Now, many of the online courses does that, right? I mean, people who are learning, it is supposed to democratize, but people who are already at a certain level of learning tend to learn better and better, while a lot of others don't get the benefit. And here is one opportunity where we can actually clear that out, right? We can make it accessible to everybody at the same level. And I'm very excited about the possibilities here. And with each passing day, we are trying to see how we can better it. We are creating more and more such conversations. For example, uh, we are building a database of job descriptions of various companies, and making sure that people have access to all of them. So if I want to do as an analyst in a particular company,
Right.
I can choose that one and then do an interview, right? So the possibilities, as I said, is endless, and we are trying to see how best we can bring the most relevant ones together. So if you want to, like, upload your resume and want to defend your resume,
Right.
people sometimes write things on the resume, and when a question is asked, they're not prepared for it, right?
Right.
Can we get them to prepare for that? So there are lots of opportunities here, and I think we will continue to build on top of what we have. There are 1,000 features we can build, which will help people, and so it's a constant journey. I think the possibilities are endless.
Amazing. No, this really kind of reinforces a lot of things, because just by learning personally with AI and kind of be able to kind of have a conversation with AI, very personalized to your resume, to a job description, kind of helps a lot to a user, and that has actually been a core of how basically an impactful change could be created. So really really nicely put, Anand. So another, like, an important question around how Mentza has kind of been has had a really big milestone, and we spoke about this before the show, about Mentza being implemented at IIT Delhi, and that's really a massive validation. Can you share more about this story, and how did that kind of happen? How was the implementation, and all of that? So, and this really gives a brand a validation a brand is always seeking for, like at both my previous firm and my current firm. Just the tie-ups you have, just the collaborations you have becomes a really critical aspect of what you're building, and I'm sure this that journey would have been a very interesting one. So can you share more about how that was with you? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this move to institutions, because there is one is about making difference at a small scale, and then there is making an impact. And I think IIT is a very, very interesting case, in the sense that some of the brightest students in the country going to that college, right? I mean, we have you need to be like absolutely at the top to get in there. But we realize that the needs that they have, even in that kind of an environment, is very similar. The challenge that we have is we have a huge population of students who are graduating each year. Every institute, right, whether it is IIT, whether it is Hindu College, whether it is any of the colleges that we are working with, any of the universities we are working with, they all have set up a very, very strong career services cell, because they understand that this is a gap that needs to be filled. At the end of the day, I learn a lot over the next 3 years or 4 years that I spend in a college, but it finally has to translate to a job, and that's what people are working towards. And so, while I understand, I've learned all these things, I've built all this knowledge, that last mile, which is conversion from that all that knowledge into translating to a job, is very, very critical. And so every institution is very focused on making sure that their students learning finally helps them find a job for themselves, and it's very crucial. And so, since we are exactly in that space, saying, okay, that's what we are helping students do, we said, okay, let's speak to career services of various institutions, their placement cells, and we came back with the understanding that all these institutions, the challenge that they have is the scale at which they have to do things. So they have set up all these systems in place, but the scale is so huge. Now, how do I do
Right.
a one-on-one session with, say, 2,000 students? Maybe we can do it once, but you can't do it 10 times, right?
Right.
So we said, okay, how do we supplement some of those things? And that's exactly how we've the relationship with all the institutions and universities that we've built have been at the same thing, that the career services said, okay, we have these systems, but we need to build scale for it. We need to have the ability, and they all recognize the role that technology, AI have
Right.
in making that happen. And so when we brought something that is like fitting exactly to the kind of needs that they had, they were very quick to lap it up. And many of these institutions have very progressive thinking as far as some of these is concerned, and we're just leveraging on the need that exists. We are not doing anything very different in terms of the product to make it appealing to these institutions. That's exactly the need that they're trying to fill, and we just fit in like a peg into that gap that exists.
Amazing. No, this is very well put. You're solving for a core problem, so I think there's nothing different which needs to be built, because when you're solving for a core problem and that core problem exists within larger institutions, you're kind of solving for a larger need. So that's really well put, and reputed institutes kind of using your product gives a lot of validation. So that's really good to know.
What I
Tap.
wanted to add, Jatin, over there, just one thing, right?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is we've also talked about the journey of Men's, and I think starting off with institutions, and of course, IIT, kind of led the way for us. But the collaboration that comes from that, right? I know that every additional institute that has joined Menza, we have gone, come back from the meeting, gone like, oh, maybe we can do this more to the product, right? Like earlier Anand was talking about this idea of adding JDs, right? Idea of adding like, personalized, interview sessions.
Right.
So I think it has also expedited and supercharged our journey with, how we're iterating constantly, right? The more institutes come in, they go like, but these are our needs. And it's suddenly, and it's not like Anand said, it's not like we're changing the product,
Right.
but it's just getting more specific,
Right.
right? So I think that's something that's happened. And it started off with obviously IIT Delhi, like you said, that it's great to have that brand, but now we have so many more, right? And they're not just institutions, but we also have organizations like Yuva Unstoppable, right? Which talks about, how do we help students who are in need as well, right? So it's not limited just to educational institutions, but I think it's now
Wow.
going past that. So I think that's exciting.
Wow. No, that's amazing. Actually, again, like I'm sure the use case is larger than just institutions. There are I'm sure individuals are your customer. Institutions are now able to use it for their large scale, as well as upskilling ventures where this kind of makes
Yep.
sense. Because there's a lot of buzz around finishing school. A lot of us kind of go out and get our degrees somewhere, and then kind of need to get our finishing school done to kind of be industry ready, to be placement ready, to do a lot of those things, and kind of AI playing a role there is kind of really critical. So good to hear about that. Tapsi, a question for you around like and with your behavioral and with your background in behavioral science, what are some of the key mindset shifts young professionals need to make to thrive in this changing landscape, and in terms of like soft skill versus technical skills, do you think something is more important than the other for a fresher, and how do kind of they balance both in their career journey? So a little bit on that.
Yeah. So, I mean, when it comes to a mind shift, I think, when you're in college, you believe you're larger than life, right? Like there's nothing that can get you down. But so if you even had to have a conversation about, real life skills, right? Real life experiences, that's something that I think students will have to adapt to, where this idea of, it's not only about bookish knowledge, right? It's about being able to communicate with people, communicate with different people, right? So you could be really, really smart, but if you can't take that information and apply it, it means nothing, right? And I think, and that's a lot of times you see that impediment. I remember when I was in architecture school, we had some really, really smart kids, right? And it would come to a crit or a presentation in front of external, judges, and it would crumble, right? And I've seen people weep in those external crits. And these are people who otherwise, and I don't know if you're allowed to use these words, but they were the shit, right? As far as they were supposed to be the best of the best. And so I think that's something that, this idea of being adaptable, saying that I need to develop my soft skills is very, very important, right? Something that we saw also with COVID, and the reason I bring this up is because we are an organization that started off during the pandemic, and we saw a huge shift when it came to workplace, right? People stopped going to offices. You lacked interaction with your colleagues, right? So suddenly, people you could learn from, or if you could have mentors on hand, that went away from you, right? uh, this ability of saying, sitting in front of a person and drawing something or writing it down went away, right? You had to now sit on meetings hours on end, right? So again, communication becomes very, very important, right? So I think that's one of the things that I students, young professionals need to keep in mind. It also almost borderlines on this idea of how do you present yourself, and I don't just mean visually, but I mean like how do you put yourself together, right? How do you communicate your ideas, your thoughts? I think that is a huge shift, and it really came to the forefront with the pandemic, because suddenly people realize that that's all I have the ability to do now, right? So I think that's a big one. And which is why again we saw a grift with Mentza over there, right? Because it allowed you to build on all of those soft skills. So yeah, I would say that's the big one. That and the other one, because we're talking about technology, is there's a lot of conversation about, technology being good, bad, behavior science, does it have ill effects, or is it evil? And I think that's, the more you learn to work with them, the more you learn to coexist with them, the better is it for you, because that is where we are headed, right? So it's not as if remote work is going to reverse itself completely. It's not like AI is going to just, like, this is the end of it. We're only moving in a certain direction. So that's the other mind shift, right? Saying that these are here to stay. Now, how do I work with them?
Right.
Right. So yeah, I'd say those are the things
No,
that come to
amazing.
mind.
Nicely put, Tapsi, and it's important to kind of adopt all of this within freshers framework, because not that each of these things existed, and in an ever-changing world you need to kind of be able to adopt all of this to kind of stay up to your game for the latest jobs. So nicely put. Anand, for you, around the vision of Mentza, and like there's a lot of interesting things going on within the app, within all the collaborations you have done so far, and all of that. And Mentza isn't just about learning and networking. You're also enabling others to be part of your vision. So can you tell us more about that, more about your partner model, and how someone who believes in this, who believes in the app, who believes that communication is really way to go forward to change careers, uh, also kind of feels that they can create an impact by participating in this vision with you. Can you talk more about how someone who wish to participate in your vision can do the same? Yeah.
Absolutely, Jatin. I think we are very excited about this journey, right? In the sense that we are now ready, that we have a product which has got fine tuned over the last couple of years. It has got AI and some of the new technologies fitted in a way that is perhaps most useful as far as users are concerned. And I think we are now ready to expand this mission beyond us. I think there are lots of people in this country who have similar kind of values to realize that something that is really really, and education is one of the levelers, right? We want everybody to have equal opportunities, and I think there are lots of people who believe in the same values, and we are looking to partner with uh, such people and to take this to every corner of the country. Now we perhaps directly access some of the bigger metros and some of the few institutions, but we are a country with over 1,000 universities, right? We have 60,000 plus colleges in this country.
Right.
So this is not a mission that we can do ourselves, right? One is to say that okay, we'll build ourselves and become bigger and bigger. And the easier one to look at is to say that if there are so many people who have got similar objective, why can't we partner? And in the process, not only that they become part of the mission, they're also able to enable themselves as an entrepreneur in building these this entire taking this product to a large number of colleges and universities. And local presence is quite important in these cases, because we are not just wanting this product to be just reaching some places. It also needs to get, we want people to engage,
Right.
which means that you need to at a local level you might have to do a number of things to make sure that the students engage with the product the way it would benefit them the most.
Right.
So uh, because it is a digital product, we have the ability to manage this centrally, but usage is something that we want to see in every institution in the country. And so we are looking for people with an entrepreneurial mindset, people who want to be part of a mission to make sure that the access to this is available to anybody who wants it. We are really really looking forward to partner with such people. And as I said, what is most important is people to feel that this is something that is genuinely in need for large parts of the nation. If that is the vision that they share, I think there's a great opportunity for us to collaborate and make this happen.
Amazing, amazing. No, good to know that about you, and good to know that a partner model which will basically help them to kind of take this to every corner of the country is something available as an opportunity, and there are a lot of micro entrepreneurs, people in tier two, tier three, tier four town cities are actually looking for good founders, good products, good companies, good vision to kind of collaborate with, and this really sounds this really sounds like a really interesting opportunity for people to kind of grab upon, and I hope like the story you started with, like the Kerala engineering college where this was needed. You find a partner in every such corner of the country, and you have people with sharing similar values to kind of take this to as you mentioned, all the 40,000 colleges, universities across the nation. So I mean, I'm sure this is a really exciting opportunity, and people would love to kind of grab this one. All right, now let's make this fun. We have our rapid fire round. You both will have just 5 seconds to answer the question, and maybe I'll keep on kind of asking the questions in the rapid fire format, and maybe Anand, you can go first, and Tapsi, you can answer next. For each of the question, I expect answers from both of you. So yeah. So I'll get started.
Oh no.
So yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So what is the biggest startup myth?
That you need to know everything before you start. Yeah, that has been my experience either in Final Mile or here. You go in and figure out exactly what you want to. You have a general mission, but you can't have every piece of it figured out before you start.
Interesting. Yeah, Tapsi.
Oh, especially with a product. If you build it, they will come. That's not how it works at all. Is something that we've learned, and yeah, it's very true. That just because you have a great idea doesn't mean it's going to be successful.
Amazing. One skill that will never go out of demand. Anand.
I think the ability to communicate and build connections with other people. I think that is what makes us human. You take that out of the equation, I guess. We talk about how machines will take over and AI will take over. You can't take the fact that you and I can communicate and build a connection. I think that is one of the most critical skills that will always stay.
Yeah, and Tapsi, for you, worst advice you ever received.
Okay, so go get funding before you have a business plan, and the
Yes.
business plan will sort
Yes.
itself out. That's the worst advice.
Yeah, I think that's one thing which entrepreneurs kind of struggle with, and maybe it seems like throwing money on the problem will solve the problem. Many a times
Yeah,
it doesn't. So I mean, good. If Mentza had a theme song, what would it be, Anand?
interesting one.
What would be a theme song? Tapsi, do you want to go for it?
Okay, so it should be Eminem's "Lose Yourself," but I'm not a rapper. That's not my genre. So if I had to be true to my genre, it will probably be, um, which is the song by Joni, "Don't Stop Believing." I don't know if you
Interesting.
guys have heard it, but
Interesting.
yeah.
If not entrepreneur, what would you both be doing today? Anand first.
Well, maybe an AI engineer. I started off as an engineer, right? At some point, if I weren't moving on to this entire entrepreneurial journey, maybe I would have been doing AI at this time, perhaps.
Interesting. Tapsi.
That totally makes sense for Anand, considering he does a lot of the AI work even with Menza right now.
I
I mean, not the coding, but like a lot of
so
the front
so
end stuff.
there
But
there the harsh truth is engineers are building the AI which would replace the engineers. So
That has
yeah.
that has always been the case, right? I
So,
mean,
yeah.
but interesting, Anand. Tapsi, what would you be if not an
So
entrepreneur?
If not an entrepreneur, I'll probably be doing something with my hands, like making things. Could be lots of different things. I don't know, but one of the things I used to love doing was model making. But I think I'd do that.
Interesting. Interesting. And a startup you wish you had founded, Anand?
Hmm.
Startup I wish I had founded. Phone Pay.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Tapsi?
IKEA, hands down,
Oh, wow.
hands down. Like I think it's a brilliant, brilliant model.
Just shows from your background what you would have wished. So yeah, very interesting. One book every entrepreneur should read, Anand.
That is one I'm absolutely. So there are so many books that are really good, but the one that I have at least had 3 sessions that I have done on Menza on that book is James Clear's Atomic Habits. Um, it's and I think it's applicable not just in your personal life; it's also applicable in your so when I look at Menza, right, that 1% improvements every day
Right.
is what has gotten us to where we are. Not this massive one big event that has taken every day, every moment. You have that intention to learn that one bit more and improve that by 1%. I think that is a philosophy that has worked for me personally as well as professionally.
I think it's true for a lot of your users as well. Like just improving 1% in their communication every day, kind of.
That is the idea of Mensa, right? Short conversation. You every day spend a little time
Yeah.
at improving yourself, and
Yeah.
that's exactly you're right, Jatin.
Because
Absolutely.
it's not an overnight journey. No one can kind of be good at
Yeah.
communication, good at being an entrepreneur, or good at anything by kind of doing it like, and they'll have to kind of do it over and over and over again and just improve a little every day. So amazing recommendation. Tapsi, your book recommendation?
It would be influenced by Robert Cialdini, simply because if you're interested in behavior science and if you're interested in building something, it has such brilliant nuggets out there, and it doesn't matter. You're not going to, you're not doing a behavior science business, but if you're doing a business of your own, even working, I think it has amazing stuff of understanding human behavior, influencing people around you. Um, that's a really good read.
Amazing. Anand, describe your journey in one word.
Disruptive.
Ooh.
Very interesting. And given that you've had ventures in the past and have kind of had successful exits, and this one I think puts it in a very nice one word way. Tapsi, your journey in one word.
It would be unscripted.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, that's a really good book name. I feel. So yeah.
I will think about it. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe my
Your biography would
yeah, my biography,
Interesting.
unscripted.
Interesting. So no, amazing, Anand and Tapsi. This has been an incredible conversation. The way you've built Mentza, uh, the impact it's creating is truly inspiring. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners try out Mentza and explore its features? So if you can share more on that, and yeah, and for those who are interested in kind of joining your channel partner opportunity, so if you can share those, um, uh, where can the listeners do that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're all the founders are on LinkedIn. You can reach out to us. We're pretty prompt at responding. So if you're interested in partnering with us, definitely drop us a line on LinkedIn. You can do that on our website, which is mentza.com. If you want to experience the app, very easy. Go to the App Store, Play Store, look for Mentza, which is Mentza. Download, try it. And this was really fun, Jatin. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Tapsi. Thanks, Anand. Listeners, if you haven't already, go check out Mentza on the Play Store, on the App Store, and experience the future of learning through conversations. And if you're interested in becoming a channel partner with them, leave an inquiry and take the first step of being part of something big. Anand, Tapsi, thanks again for being here. It's been a pleasure. And to all our listeners, don't forget to subscribe and share this episode of the Success Playbook. See you in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks, Jatin. Thanks so much. Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.